My stepdaughter told me she wasn't ever going to love me because her dad was a better man than me. I smirked and calmly looked away. When I told my wife about this, she said, "Why are you surprised? Isn't that the truth?" So I nodded and left her. The next morning, I took action, and it wasn't an easy one. I will tell you everything. First, let me quickly thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Ray Hilton from New York. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's go deeper into the story. I always believed that love could be earned. That if I just did enough, showed up enough, paid enough, sacrificed enough, it would find its way back to me. When I married Lisa, I knew she came with a past, and I accepted it willingly. Her daughter, Maya, was 15 then. Moody, guarded, and loyal to the memory of her father like a knight sworn to a ghost king. I never tried to replace him. I only tried to show her that I was steady, dependable, the kind of man who didn't leave. For 4 years, I paid every bill in that house. Phone plans, car insurance, groceries, Maya's private college tuition, none of it cheap. I worked extra hours and rarely complained. Lisa wasn't working when we met. She said she wanted to go back to school and become a counselor. I supported that, even when the bills doubled and the appreciation dwindled. I told myself it would all balance out someday, that we were building something solid, something real. But there were cracks in that illusion. I saw it in the way Maya would stiffen when I offered help, how she'd roll her eyes when I reminded her about curfews or grades. I heard the sarcasm behind every thanks she gave me. Lisa would just say, "Teenagers are like that," as if my presence in their lives came with a disclaimer, "Don't expect gratitude." I ignored it. I thought maybe if I kept showing up, things would shift. One night, after picking Maya up from a party where she was clearly too drunk to drive, she sat slouched in the passenger seat, reeking of cheap vodka and entitlement. I said nothing as we drove, just kept my hands at 10 and 2, the way I always did when I needed to feel in control. Halfway home, she muttered, without even looking at me, "You know I'm never gonna love you, right? My dad was a better man than you'll ever be." I didn't flinch. I didn't look at her. I just let out a breath through my nose, almost a laugh. Not from amusement, but from the absurdity of it. I smirked because there was nothing else left to do. That was the moment, right there, when something cold and precise clicked into place inside me. She wasn't saying that to provoke me. She meant it. She believed it. And Lisa, well, maybe she believed it too. When we got home, Maya slammed the door and stomped up the stairs. I sat in the car a little longer than usual, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. I thought about every check I'd written, every ride I'd given, every time I stood between Maya and the consequence she should have faced. Then I went inside, brushed my teeth, and laid down beside Lisa, who was scrolling on her phone like nothing had happened. I told her what Maya said, trying to keep my voice even, though my chest was tight. She didn't even look up, just said, "Why are you surprised? Isn't that the truth?" That silence that followed, it was the loudest moment of my life. I turned to look at her, half expecting a smirk, a glint of sarcasm, something that told me she didn't really mean it. But no, just a blank face, illuminated by the glow of her screen. She meant it. I nodded slowly, like I was agreeing with her. But really, I was just agreeing with myself, agreeing that I'd had enough. I didn't argue, didn't yell, didn't demand respect. I just turned onto my side and stared at the wall until sleep found me. Because in that moment, I knew what tomorrow was going to look like. I was done playing the fool in a family that never wanted me to begin with. The next morning, the sun rose like it always did, spilling light across our bedroom as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I moved through the house with a calm so foreign it almost felt like someone else had slipped into my skin. Lisa was still asleep, her face peaceful in that way only people who feel secure in their lives can afford. I watched her for a moment, not with love or resentment, just clarity. The kind that hits you when the blindfold comes off, and the room you thought was safe turns out to be nothing but shadows and illusions. I brewed coffee in silence, poured it into my thermos, and sat at the kitchen table staring at the refrigerator covered in photos. Photos of Lisa and Maya at the beach. Maya in her graduation gown. Maya with her dad, his face blurred but unmistakable, held in a frame Lisa kept near the microwave. There wasn't a single photo of the three of us. Not one. That's when I reached for my phone and called the bank. Hi. Yes. I need to make some account changes. My voice was steady, professional. The way I sounded in work meetings when I had to fire someone. I canceled the auto pay for Lisa's phone, removed my name from the tuition payments, suspended the additional card I'd given Maya for emergencies. I changed the Netflix password too, not out of spite, but because I finally realized I didn't owe them comfort. When Lisa came down in her robe, rubbing her eyes and yawning, I was already dressed and ready to leave. You're up early, she said, opening the fridge like she hadn't gutted me 12 hours earlier. I nodded, sipping my coffee. Yeah, got some things to take care of. She didn't ask what. Of course she didn't. She was used to me handling things. And that was the problem. At work, I spent most of the day in my office, avoiding small talk and sipping burnt coffee. I called a lawyer during lunch, the kind that doesn't mess around. Told him I wanted to get the ball rolling on a divorce. No spousal support, clean break, and I'd happily walk away from most assets if it meant I'd never have to see that blank expression on Lisa's face again. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at a hotel near the edge of town, a cheap but clean place where the bed didn't smell like betrayal. I texted Lisa, "Don't wait up. We'll talk tomorrow." The next morning, I showed up at the house just after sunrise, keys in hand, heart steady. Lisa was in the kitchen, this time fully dressed, like she already knew the tide had shifted. "What's going on, Mark?" she asked, arms crossed. I walked past her, went to the bedroom, and started packing my things. Just the essentials. The rest could rot for all I cared. "Mark," she snapped, following me. "What the hell are you doing?" I paused, looked at her. She was angry, confused, good. Let her feel what I'd been drowning in for years. "I'm leaving," I said simply. She scoffed, actually scoffed. Because of what Maya said? She's a kid. She didn't mean it. I stared at her. "And what about what you said?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Nothing came out. And that silence? It told me everything I needed to know. I zipped my suitcase, stood tall, and said, "I've been a father to that girl longer than her real one ever was. Paid for things he never touched. Gave up pieces of myself trying to fit into a family that never had room for me. I thought I was building something with you, Lisa, but I was just funding someone else's comfort." "You're overreacting," she hissed. I laughed once. Cold. "No, I'm reacting exactly as I should have years ago." I walked out of that house without looking back. Every step felt like shedding dead skin. That night, I slept soundly, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I had finally chosen myself. The next few days moved like a slow, satisfying exhale. I stayed at that hotel longer than I intended, not because I had nowhere to go, but because I was savoring the silence, the absence of walking on eggshells, of being invisible in my own home. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to perform to be tolerated. I wasn't playing the role of husband, father, provider. I was just Mark, and that was enough. I rented a modest apartment downtown. Nothing fancy, just clean and quiet with a view of the old courthouse and a tree that bloomed too early every spring. I filled it with my things and my things alone. No pastel throw pillows I hated. No fridge full of organic snacks Maya never thanked me for. Just my coffee, my beer, my peace. The lawyer moved fast. Papers were drafted by the end of the week. My request was clear. No spousal support, no entanglements. Let her keep the house. I didn't want a single square inch of it. I just wanted out, free and clean. Meanwhile, I combed through every financial tie I still had to them. Lisa's gym membership? Gone. The second car insurance plan? Removed. I even called the college and made sure Maya's tuition plan was officially terminated. I informed them I was no longer the responsible party. The administrator's voice dropped to a whisper when she asked, "Are you sure, sir?" "I'm sure," I said. And I was. I expected fireworks when the consequences finally caught up to them, but what I got was silence, for a while. A silence that confirmed what I already knew. They didn't come looking for me because they missed me. They came when the money stopped. A week later, Lisa showed up outside my office. I saw her through the glass, arms crossed, fake calm in her eyes. My assistant buzzed me, but I told her to let Lisa wait. I finished 2 emails before I opened the door. "You couldn't have given us a warning?" she said before I could even speak. You just cut off everything? Do you have any idea what you've done to Maya? I leaned against the frame. She said her dad was the better man. Let him pay for her education. Lisa blinked. Mark, you know he won't. He hasn't even seen her in years. Not my problem, I said, and it wasn't. Not anymore. She's devastated. No, she's inconvenienced, I corrected. There's a difference. Lisa's face cracked a little then. You're being cruel. That word, cruel, sat wrong in my mouth. Like she'd suddenly forgotten the years I bent myself backwards to make their lives easier. Like I hadn't swallowed disrespect in polite doses until I was sick with it. No, I said slowly. Cruel is taking from someone endlessly and pretending it's their duty. Cruel is watching me pay your bills and treat your daughter like my own while you sit in silence every time she spit in my face. This is just justice. Lisa didn't say anything, just stood there blinking, like maybe now she finally saw me. But it was too late for that. When Maya came to see me the next day, because of course, now it was her turn, she wasn't crying. She was angry. You seriously just stopped paying? Do you even care what that does to my future? I sat behind my desk and folded my hands. I cared. A lot. For 4 years. But you made it clear I was never part of your family. I'm just acting accordingly. She scoffed, just like her mother. Whatever. Dad would never do this. I smiled genuinely, this time. Then call him. She didn't have a comeback. Just stormed out like a child denied her favorite toy. I watched her go with a strange, aching calm. I wasn't angry. I wasn't bitter. I was just done. And that was the most powerful feeling I'd ever had. It didn't take long for the dust to settle, and when it did, it revealed just how little they had expected me to mean what I said. I suppose they thought I was bluffing, that I'd cool off, come back with my tail tucked between my legs, maybe apologize for overreacting. But the truth was, I'd never been more sane, more grounded. I wasn't running from them. I was running back to myself. Lisa's sister was the first to call. She's falling apart, Mark, she said softly, as though pity might undo what had already been done. You really cut off everything? Yes, I replied. Everything. A long pause. Don't you think that's a bit extreme? No, I said. I think letting someone step on you for 4 years without consequence is extreme. She didn't call again. Then came Maya's email. The subject line read, I'm sorry. Just that. The body of the message was longer than anything she'd ever said to me in person. It started off angry, then softened halfway through. She said she was just defending her dad, that she didn't mean to hurt me, that she was confused. Said she realized now how much I'd done for her, how much I'd covered, how much I must have cared. She ended it with, I just want to talk. Please. One more chance. I didn't respond. That same evening, Lisa showed up at my apartment door. No warning, no text. Just a knock at 8:43 p.m. I opened the door halfway, leaned on the frame. She looked tired. Not the kind of tired that comes from lack of sleep, but the kind that creeps in when you finally understand something too late. I didn't come to fight, she said. Then why did you come? She hesitated, then pulled a small envelope from her purse. Maya wrote this. She wanted me to give it to you in person. I took the envelope but didn't open it. Just held it. She's scared, Lisa continued. Her classes are on hold. She doesn't know how to get a job, and her father, he won't return her calls. She didn't mean what she said. You know, she was just being a brat. I studied her. The desperation behind her eyes. The quiet panic. The realization that their safety net had walked away and wasn't coming back. I believed in you, Lisa, I said. Even when Maya didn't. Even when you let her treat me like a stranger in my own home. I kept thinking you'd step in. Just once. Tell her I mattered. Tell her I was doing my best. She looked down. I thought you knew. People don't know unless you show them, I said. And you never did. There was silence. Heavy, but honest. She needs you, she whispered. We need you. I shook my head, slow and steady. No. You needed what I gave. Not who I am. She opened her mouth to speak again, but I held up my hand. Tell Maya to go back to her father. You both said he was the better man. Let him be. And then I shut the door. I stood behind it for a moment, listening. There was no knock, no plea, just footsteps fading down the hallway, leaving behind only the letter in my hand. I didn't open it, not because I didn't care, but because I finally cared more about my peace than their redemption. The lawyer slid the final papers across the table, his pen already poised beside the dotted line. The room was sterile, cheap art on the walls, water cooler in the corner, the faint hum of a printer spitting out someone else's fresh start. I glanced at Lisa, seated across from me in a blouse I used to compliment. She didn't look at me. She hadn't, really, since the door shut in her face that night. "Everything's in order," the lawyer said. "No contest. Once you both sign, we'll file and be done." Done. That word hit like a soft thud in my chest. Not painful, just final. I picked up the pen, signed my name with deliberate strokes, then pushed the papers across the table. Lisa hesitated for a second, maybe out of pride, maybe regret. But then she signed too, eyes still fixed on some invisible point in the distance. And just like that, it was over. There were no tears, no raised voices, no last-minute apologies or what-ifs. Just two people sitting in silence, severing the last legal thread between them. Outside the building, I breathed deep. The air was warm, thick with the promise of summer. A few leaves scraped across the sidewalk. I felt like I'd been holding my breath for 4 years and had only just now remembered how to let it out. That night, I celebrated the only way I knew how, alone, but at peace. I grilled a steak on my tiny apartment balcony, drank a cold beer, and listened to a playlist I hadn't touched in years. Music I used to love, before I gave up small pieces of myself for the sake of fitting into a life that was never truly mine. Friends had called when they found out. Some supportive, others confused. "You're really not going to help them at all?" one asked. "No," I said. "I'm not. But what if Maya needs you? Really needs you?" I thought about that for a moment. Needing someone isn't the same as loving them. And I was never truly loved. Just used. There was no anger in my voice, just truth. And sometimes, truth is enough to silence even the most well-meaning doubt. Lisa tried one more time. A text, short and sharp. "You changed. You used to be kind." I stared at the screen a long time before replying. "No, I used to be compliant. You mistook that for kindness." She didn't respond. The letter Maya had written still sat in the top drawer of my desk, unopened. I wasn't angry at her, not anymore. She was young, sheltered, raised in a bubble of loyalty to a father who never stayed long enough to disappoint her. But that didn't mean I owed her another version of myself just to be broken again. Sometimes, protecting someone means protecting yourself first. The next day, the divorce was finalized in court. Quick, clean. No property disputes. No spousal support. No last hugs or parting gifts. I walked out of that courthouse lighter than I'd felt in years. There was no parade. No applause. Just the quiet triumph of a man who finally realized he didn't need to beg to be valued. It's strange, the kind of peace that follows after years of emotional turbulence. It doesn't come crashing in like a wave. It creeps in slowly, quiet and cautious, as if it doesn't quite believe it belongs to you. But one morning you wake up, make your coffee, and realize the silence in your home isn't cold or empty, it's sacred. It's yours. 3 months had passed since the divorce was finalized. I'd fallen into a rhythm that was mine alone. My apartment stayed clean. My calendar stayed open. I started reading again. Books I never had time for when I was too busy fixing lives that weren't mine to fix. I went for walks in the evening and took long drives on Sundays, music loud and windows down. The city felt new again. Or maybe it was me who had changed. People kept asking if I'd heard from Lisa or Maya. I hadn't. Not really. A few messages from Maya's college came through, automated reminders about unpaid tuition and deregistration. I didn't respond. A few mutual acquaintances dropped vague updates. Lisa was looking for work. Maya moved back in with her grandmother. Their father was still MIA, of course. Some habits die hard. I thought about Maya more often than I admitted. Not with bitterness, but with something quieter. A sadness, maybe. A regret that things couldn't have been different, but not for lack of trying. I had given that girl every chance. Every ride, every bill, every ounce of grace I had in me. I had tried to love her into loving me, and in the end, she made it clear I was a placeholder, nothing more. I mourned that truth, and then I moved on. One Saturday morning, I sat at my kitchen table writing a letter, not to them, but to myself. I hadn't planned it. I just picked up the pen and started. "Dear Mark, you did everything you could. You showed up. You stayed. You gave until there was nothing left to give. And when they showed you who they were, you believed them. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You're not cold for walking away. You're not cruel for choosing peace. You're free. And from this moment on, you will never again beg to be seen. You are enough. Always have been. I folded the letter and placed it in my desk drawer, right next to Maya's. Still unopened. Still unread. Because some things don't need answers. Some chapters close without final conversations. Some love stories never become mutual. And that's okay. I had no interest in revenge. No desire to watch them suffer. I just didn't want to carry them anymore. Not their needs. Not their guilt. Not their silence. The last bill I ever paid for them wasn't financial. It was emotional. And I'd paid it in full. Now, I spend my days on my terms. I'm seeing someone new. Not serious yet. Just dinners and long conversations. She asks questions. She listens. She tells me thank you when I do the little things, like open her door or remember how she takes her coffee. It's not dramatic. It's not complicated. It's honest. Sometimes, that's all you need. I look back only to remind myself of what I survived. Not with hate, but with clarity. I gave more than I got. I stood alone in a house full of people. And when it came time to choose between being needed and being respected, I finally chose the latter. And I haven't looked back since. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. For more emotionally raw and relatable stories about family, betrayal, and personal boundaries, hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching and supporting us. See you soon in the next story.